Hey friends, happy midweek. Can you believe that this is the final Wednesday of 2020? This is our last midweek of 2020. Tomorrow night, you're going to be going to dinner, you're going to be going to play games and do parties, or maybe you're the kind of people that just sit at home and watch the ball drop from New York City at 11 p.m., or maybe you're the kind of people that go to bed at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and you wake up just thanking God for a new day, and you don't really care what year it is. But regardless, tomorrow evening, we celebrate a new year that is coming and a year that is going. And for most of us, we're waving goodbye to 2020 because it has been a dumpster fire for a lot of us. But if you look closely, just like with anything else, you can see fingerprints of God everywhere. I mean, you can see the fingerprints of God all over 2020 if you look close enough. And so regardless of where we've been, it's been a blessing. But let me just kind of share some of the challenges we've faced, not only as a church, but maybe you personally. So as a church, way back in March, I'm just going to recap what this year's been for us. COVID hit, and everyone was shutting down, as you know, and maybe it's even too soon to even talk about it and try to remember it. But we as a church had to figure out, what are we going to do? And so we started to redo some things. We started to brainstorm. We started to come up with new ideas, to be creative and trying to make sure that we are presenting the gospel, because that's the most important thing that we can do as a church. But we're trying to figure out, how can we present the gospel to our church, to our congregation, but also continue to help grow and feed the community that we're a part of. And so we came up with some good ideas, and we've had to fluctuate from some other ideas, but nonetheless, we are doing everything we can. And you've been here and you've been a part of this, which is what brought this whole midweek thing together along the journey. And so over the last 10 months or so, we've been really trying our best to continue to do everything we can to the best of our ability. And I know it's not easy, and we've got several people that are trying to work on different projects, and we've got a few people who are doing a lot of different projects. And everyone, if you haven't seen or you don't have a glimpse into the behind the scenes look at what goes on in the church, everyone is working diligently to make sure that things like this are continuing to happen. And so I just want to say thank you if you've been a part of any of that. If you've been praying for our teams here, our ministry teams, if you've been praying for the people who are trying to make this stuff happen, and maybe you've directly been involved, I just want to say thank you so much for being an asset to us as we continue to try to strive to make Jesus famous, not only in this church, but in our community, and more specifically in your household. And so I just want to say thank you for the encouragement that you guys have been giving to us. I know as the preachers of the church, Rick, Logan, myself, and everyone who's been involved in this year of trying to make things grow and be a part of something bigger, we all just want to say thank you so much for your kind support, your encouraging words, but more importantly, we just thank you so much for the prayers. And so I know that there may be things that you look at and say, that wasn't that great, or we could be better at that. We know, and we're working on it. And so hopefully 2020 is going to bring about some really cool ideas and some new things that are going to help us promote some different changes within the church. But I know that 2020 hasn't just been a struggle for us as a congregation. It's been a struggle for you as a person. And maybe you've been laid off and you've been told by society that you just weren't essential, that you're not important. And I just want to say I'm sorry that we've relayed that message to you as a culture, because you are very valued and you are very important. And so what I want to talk about today is, how do we get over that hump? How do we get to the next phase? Because as we throw this year away and hope that we never, ever have to talk about it again, unless we're reading a history book, maybe 20 years from now, how do we move on? And I'm reading this book called Canoeing the Mountains. And it is a leadership book talking about church leadership. But what I love about it is it tells the story of Lewis and Clark. You know, way back then when they were trying to discover America, and Lewis and Clark were on a mission and a journey, and they had a team of people that were coming with them, and they were told to go travel the Missouri River. Hey, just go explore the river. Now, if you're a river expert, that's probably really fun for you, right? And maybe they were. Lewis and Clark, they knew the water. They had boats, and they understood how to do things. As you could tell with me talking about it, I don't have a clue. And so I'm not boat savvy. I used to love to ride sailboats. Back in the Boy Scouts, I was taught to flip one over and how to flip one back, and canoes and all that good stuff. But I couldn't tell you how to navigate a boat. I could say, let's put it on water and let's just go. But these guys had it down to a science. They knew how to row the river. And they had their team of people, they had their boats, and they were going and exploring. And so when you're comfortable in an area and there's something that you know well, it's really hard to be challenged more than that, right? It's really, when you're at the peak of what you're good at, it's hard to say, well, this year I really don't have anything to set forth for. I don't have any goals to set ahead. But here's the kicker. If you know anything about the Lewis and Clark story, at one point, the Missouri River runs into the Rocky Mountains, right? And so these people who were trying to go down the river, who understood the river, who navigated the river, all of a sudden came to a pass to where they had to now become mountain climbers. And I don't know about you, but those are two very different parts of the world, right? Those are two very different things to do. And so you could be on the water and just rowing, unless you're going down a waterfall, then you might learn how to rock climb. But climbing and hiking a mountain and going down a river are two very different things. And I've done both. And so my experience with being on a boat is much better than my experience hiking a mountain. When I went out to Phoenix several years ago, I stayed with a buddy who's like, hey, we're going to go hike a mountain. And so we went and we climbed this mountain. I can't even tell you how tall this thing was, but it seemed like at the base, if you've ever been to a mountain, it looks like at the base when you're way behind and you're maybe miles away from the mountain, you look up and you're like, that looks like a hill. Like, that doesn't even look that steep. It's not that bad. We'll probably get up there in 45 minutes and climb down. And that's what you think. But as you slowly start to approach the base of this mountain, you look up and you're like, this is going to be a tall task. And so I remember we started going and it was so steep that the trail had to kind of weave in and out like this on the side of the mountain because it was just too steep to go straight up. And so what seemed to be like a 45-minute hike ended up taking us like 2 hours to get to the top. And the depressing part is for me, and this is the pessimism coming out of me, is when I got to the peak, I wasn't even impressed with the view because I'd literally just seen this at a better view from the airplane not even 2 days before. And so as I climbed this mountain, I was just kind of in awe of how disappointing this experience was. So I'll be the first to tell you, I am not a mountain climber. I'm not good at it. I have no desire to ever hike a mountain ever again in my entire life. But that's okay, right? And Lewis and Clark, they were in the river and they finally got to the Rocky Mountains and they had to figure out, okay, what's on the other side? How do we get through this? So they had to stop what they knew and they had to become something very different in a drop of a hat. Right? They had to become mountain climbers if they were going to continue to explore, to see how everything connects, to see how all this stuff in our Western culture is developed as far as the land goes. And so they had to pursue the mountain. They had to overcome their fears, their doubts. I know there were people thinking like me, like, hey, I've never climbed a mountain before. All I know is the river. And so as they begin to climb the mountain, you guys know the rest of the story. But here's my point that I want to make to you is make 2021 your mountain to climb. Make it your mountain to climb. Whatever it is that you feel that you're comfortable doing, make 2021 your mountain to climb. So if there's a new challenge that sets before you, whatever resolution, if you're those kind of people that make resolutions, make one that you know you're going to stick with and stick to climbing that mountain. Because I can promise at the other end, at the top of that mountain that you're trying to overcome, that will be a blessing for you. It's not going to be an awe of disappointment as it was for me climbing a mountain. It's going to be one of those experiences where you're just like, look what I've done. Look at what happened. Look at the mountain that I've climbed. And as you look back at the whole year, you're going to see how you've progressed through whatever challenge you're trying to face before you. So if you're losing weight, get out there and get it done. If you're trying to be more financially stable, get out there and get it done. If you're trying to be a better husband, a better wife, if your relationship with God is something that you desire to be better at in 2021, get a game plan together and get it done. Don't make excuses about it. And trust me when I say this, I am the king of excuses. There are many goals that I've been setting before with myself that I've always seemed to just push aside, or I get halfway through it and I'm just done with it. And I get overwhelmed, I get discouraged, and I just kind of break down about it. And I just throw in the towel. And I've realized that our culture is that way. Our culture is the culture that just throws in towels when things get heavy, when the push comes to shove, when the fire gets hot, we throw the towel in and we just give up. What if 2021, you made a new commitment to yourself right now before God, before your family, maybe before your spouse, and you said, you know what, the one resolution I want to make this year is to just simply not give up, is to not give up. Now, you may have a goal set in your mind, and you may not get to that goal, but hey, look how far you've come. If you go into it with the mentality that I choose to not give up, I'm going to do everything I can. And when the rubber meets the road and things get hot and I feel like I'm going to fail, I'm just going to remember to keep pressing on. Don't give up. What's the mountain that you need to climb in 2021? What's the comfort zone that you need to get out of? I want to read from Romans 8, verse 28, and it says this, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Now, our purpose for ourselves and the purpose God sets before us are mostly very different. Very seldom do I ever find somebody who's like, yeah, I'm doing exactly what I think God wants me to do. Most of us live with this attitude of, I'm not really sure of what God wants me to do. And I know that we've studied over the book of Colossians, but if you look at chapter 3, verse 17 again, where it says, in everything that you do, no matter what you do, in work or deed, do it as if you're doing it for Jesus. Rick touched on that in his sermon this past week. Do it as if you're doing it for the Lord, and watch what happens. And I believe the purpose that God sets behind us isn't necessarily something that's made in one little aspect. I think it's who we are. God has created purpose in who we are. And so whatever mountain you feel like you need to climb, God's going to bless your work ethic as you move towards that mountain. And you may not even know if that's what God wants you to do. So the best thing I could tell you, and you're going to understand your purpose right now in like less than 3 seconds, all right? In less than 3 seconds, you're going to know exactly what God wants you to do, all right? Think about this. What's the next thing that you know you need to do? That's your purpose. Or maybe you can ask it this way. How can I serve somebody today? How can I serve somebody tomorrow? How can I serve my wife, my family, my friends, the people I don't know? Maybe this question, and this is going to be a tough one. How can I serve my enemies today? And maybe that's your mountain to climb in 2021, is just learning how to serve, learning how to just serve people. So whatever it is for you, whatever journey you're about to go on, just do 2 things. 1, never give up. And 2, work as if you're working for the Lord. Because when you're working for the Lord, you'll never give up anyway, right? Because you don't want to give up. You don't want to give up. You want to keep pushing. And if you need a voice in your ear, put this thing on repeat as you start to begin to think of yourself as a failure, that you can't do it, that you're going to give up. Think of yourself this way, that you can do it, right? Don't let any negativity seep into your mind, because that's what the enemy is going to come to do. And so, friends, as you progress through 2021, may you understand that the Lord is for you. The Lord loves you. And for all those who love the Lord, he will do all things according to his purpose for your purpose. And so don't forget that. Let that be your encouragement. And as you get halfway up that mountain and you're out of breath and you need water, just remember there's going to be blessing at the top of this thing. Stop going back to what we're comfortable doing, although it's easy to do, and start changing what we can do to be better at who we want to be tomorrow. Don't be the same today. Always have a journey that you're going on. Always be a pioneer of your faith, because God, Jesus himself, is the pioneer for our faith. He's already set the way. So you can set the way for the rest of your journey. And you can be the pioneer of faith for your children, for your grandchildren. So friends, let 2021 be the best year yet. Have a great week. We look forward to seeing you this weekend, and be safe out there as you celebrate the coming of the new year. God bless.